Okay, here we go again. And we have a question here from someone's getting a name, Snip Bits. Hope that is a real name. Okay, how to create an emergency food supply garden from scratch in poverty-stricken and low infrastructure areas such as refugee camps and war zones. I've seen videos about Syrian people living in refugee camps growing mushrooms for food supply. Any other links, ideas? Yes, we work in those refugee camps in Jordan, and we put in wicking beds. They're usually made out of 1,000 litre, 1 cubic metre totes cut in half. You make 2 wicking beds, half a metre deep, lower bottom with gravel as a water tank that soaks up from underneath. Minimum water use, minimum size, already in a container, works wonderfully well. 1 square metre at a top, 1 square metre at a time. You can also make a worm farm in the same system, and you can also convert them into micro reed beds to purify greywater. So you can purify greywater as a reed bed with the same tank cut in half. So each cubic metre makes 2 tanks that can make 2 reed beds. That water can go through and flush through worm farms, and now you can fertigate underneath your wicking bed gardens. And that works fantastic for those systems because you're always short of space, you're always short of water, you're always short of available nutrient. So it does multiple jobs at the same time. We found it wonderfully successful. Okay. And you can compost, and you've got worm castings, and you can get it working very well. Our next one is Thomas van Leeuweren. I'm busy transforming a forest, let's say 550 metres square, to a permacultural based food forest. The soil is pretty acid because of pine and oak trees. The forest has already been thinned once, I think 30 to 40 years ago. There are a lot of possibilities, but where do I start? Could you share your thoughts on this and mind to give me some hints from your experience, know-how? So thanks and be safe. Okay, well, if you've got a canopy forest that's already shading the ground, you're not going to get the same production. I don't know what exact climate you are, but it sounds like it's kind of temperate to Mediterranean because of the type of trees. If you've got a lot of acid mulch, you can grow good strawberries and good blueberries. They like acidity, and they'll benefit from that mulch. You're going to have to figure out whether you want to cut some of it down, or pollard, that's cut low, or even coppice, oak, because it will recover. It'll grow back from being heavily pollarded. That'll open up a certain amount of light. Pines won't necessarily recover if you cut them too low. You're going to have to open up on the sun side, so whatever way faces the sun, because it's all about getting extra penetration into the system of the sunlight. You're going to have to look for species that handle a little bit of shade, so your selection is reduced, and species that like that acidity as well. So there are your choices, because it's just not going to be the same as full sun. And you could go for, mushroom production with both pines and oaks. They're both feed lines for good mushrooms. So there are uses for the logs in that sort of shade moist scenario. Think about your orientation, your light, where you want to open it up, what crops are going to favour that acidity. And again, you're just going to have a food forest. We're going to have a more beneficial food forest on the sun edge side of it. So our next one is Michael Augustine. Creosote, Jeff. What do I do with creosote bushes? Well, creosote bushes actually grow in desert lower flume areas. They can live to great age. There's some that are considered to be up like sections of, there's a famous ring of creosote bushes that's said to be about 11,000 years old. I mean, the oldest living things on Earth. They're allelopathic, so they don't favour the growth of other things around them. But because of where they grow in desert flumes, which are areas that flood flow at certain times with sheets of water going across, they pick up all kinds of organic matter. So they become nutrient traps. So they're an interesting scenario. If you've got a lot of it and you don't want to necessarily work with it, and you want to it's like get rid of it in an area, and you want to work that area, what you would do is cut them down at soil level and stop them growing any leaves. So everything will die if you just keep cutting it at ground level every month or every couple of months. Will do it fine. It won't be able to regrow any leaves, and if it can't photosynthesize, it will die. But then you've got the material that's allelopathic that you've accumulated, and that's not going to compost very easy, and it won't be very good if it does. What you then do is, with any allelopathic organic matter, is you pile it up, make a big pile of it, and it has to be a cubic meter or a little bit more. Cut it up if you can, so it's like smaller size. Chop it up, make a pile of it, like a pile of compost, but it's not really compost. It's not going to really compost easy because it's allelopathic. But keep it damp. Keep it shaded and damp. When it grows ear mushrooms around it, right? When there are wings of mushrooms coming out of it, that's a sign. Keeping it damp at the size 1 cubic meter. When those mushrooms appear, when that fungus appears, the ear mushrooms around it will give you an indication. Then the allelopathy is broken. Now you can truly compost it and use it on your edible crops. So at that point, it's got great value. So you need to do a couple of control measures: stop it growing leaves, kill it off there, the root zone, so hopefully will decompose. Take your allelopathic mulch, convert it into non-allelopathic, and move on from there. Okay, Clinton Rogers is the next question. I've just been given a trailer load of greenish wood chips. Can I pile them up and grow in them while it's composting? No, you've got to go through a compost process, right? And break it down. It won't easily be, a big pile of compost isn't something that easily grows if it's truly composting. Are there do's and don'ts? Good to hear that you and your family are safe. Would definitely be better in quarantine on Zaytuna Farm than in a hotel. Best wishes. Yeah, well, you're right about that one. Nothing's happened on Zaytuna Farm from before or after any virus. Life's the same. It's wonderful. A few less people there, but it's all happening. They were showing me video today of fresh food being eaten. I'm jealous. I'll be there pretty soon. You want to add lots of organic matter. Your wood chips, you add some fresh green material and some good quality manure. Chicken manure and things like that would go well with these green wood chips. So get an equal amount. Get at least a third of a cubic meter of wood chips, a third of a cubic meter of manure, and a third of a cubic meter of green material. Right? Pile it all up in a cage, leave it there for a week, keep it wet, get it wet, cover it from the rain so it doesn't get too wet, get a round cage, leave it for a week, and then turn it over Monday, turn it over Wednesday, turn it over. You don't have to be in a cage after this. 1 week in a cage, then turn it over Monday, Wednesday, Friday, take the weekend off, do it again the next week, take the weekend off. And on the third time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, she's ready. It's an easy way to compost. Too easy. Here we have a question from Duard Niazi. Hi, Jeff. I'm Mooson's friend here in Wales. Can you kill bracken fern by covering with a tarp? You probably can, but bracken fern is actually an indicator of the area's been burnt and there's a lack of potassium that's available in the soil to most plants. But bracken fern is one of those indicators of this, but it has this secret ability, special ability, to harvest potassium and build it in its body. So the bodies of bracken fern themselves are high in potassium. So if you burn it, it gets thicker and spreads by a meter away from the patch. If you cut it and chop it, cut it and mulch it, cut it and mulch it, it diminishes and diminishes and diminishes. So you can graze over it in between it and then cut it and mulch it, graze it and cut it and mulch it, or just cut it and mulch it, cut it and mulch it. And it doesn't take long before it really thins out and eventually just disappears. So you're speeding up the additions of potassium that it's harvested to replace the potassium that's burnt off by fire. Little tricks of reading the landscape in its weeds and going into repairing the cause of the weed indicator. There you go.